Hey, you guys, we're going to do the last section in our Unit 3 work. This is going to be section 3.8. Okay, so we're going to be talking about zeros and end behavior. So we have so far, remember, we've analyzed equations for what their end behavior is going to look like. So meaning when we put it on a graph, what are the legs going to be doing in the air? Then we went further and we found the x-intercepts or the zeros of the functions. So now we're going to put that all together and we're going to be able to sketch a graph without using a calculator. Okay. So this first part, we're just going over end behavior one more time. Okay, so we've already reviewed this. This is just kind of a brief review. So if it's moving left, this means x is approaching negative infinity as we go to the left of the graph. This is our limit notation for the left side of the graph. Okay. If we're moving right, this is our limit notation for the right side of the graph. So it's really important that we get that limit notation down because we're going to keep seeing it a lot in our math classes coming up. Okay. We talked about the power or the degree. So if the degree is odd, then that means the legs go in opposite directions. Okay, so the left is down on this one, and then it will be up here, or vice versa, the left is up, and then the other one is down. Okay, that's if it's an odd, so this is like x cubed, anything with an odd power. And then with an even power, if the degree is even, then the legs are the same. So they're going the same direction. So either they're both up or they're both down. Okay, so those were the 4 scenarios that we came up with. And then this is the limit notation that we would write for each one of those. Remember, anytime I have the x with the arrow with the negative infinity, this means left. So this is saying the left leg is going down. And then this is saying the right leg is going up. Okay. All right, so we start with example 1, where it says, without graphing, determine the end behavior of each polynomial. So all I'm going to do is look for the highest power, 3, 2, 1. I'm going to circle this. Okay, so this is without graphing. So then I'm going to write, this is an odd, and the leading coefficient is negative. Okay, so the leading coefficient is the number in front of the term that I circled. So this one's negative. So to determine this end behavior, an odd and negative, the left leg is up and the right leg is down. And that's something that I just have to have memorized. So then when I write my limit notation, I've got the limit on the left is up and the limit on the right is down. Okay, so that's just a review of the end behavior that we have done in the past. This is going to be a 4th, so it's even, positive, and they're both up. This one I'm going to look 11, 25, 32, 2. So this is my highest power. I always circle the highest one. So that's going to be an even and a negative. Okay, so then they're both going to be down. On this one, they're both going to be up anyway. So that's review. Okay, so I'm not going to go over all of that stuff. The next thing that we learned was the fundamental theorem of algebra. This gives us how many zeros. So since this highest power is a 3, there's 3 zeros. Since this highest power is a 4, there's 4 zeros. Okay, so we're going to skip over a couple of these examples. And then this down here at the bottom, this is how to find zeros on your graphing calculator. Okay, so this is something that you learned last year, but I'm going to go over it real quick. So if I had x squared minus 2x minus 8. Okay, so now I am not going to factor this or quadratic formula. I am going to put this in a graphing calculator. Okay. See if you guys can see that. All right, so I'm going to go to y equals for you. All right, so I'm going to enter that in the calculator. So x squared minus 2x minus 8. I'm going to graph that. Okay, so what I want you to notice is that we have two intercepts here, okay? So looking at this graph, it looks like this. So I'm going to be looking for this x-intercept right here. So the left side of that x-intercept is going to be up here above the x-axis, and then the right side is going to be below. And then when I switch over to this one, the left side is now below, and the right side is above, okay? So when I do this, when I follow these steps, so I'm going to do second trace, and then I'm going to select number 2, okay? So second trace, select number 2, and then it says left bound and right bound. Okay, so for left bound, I'm going to use my left arrow, and you can see that that is moving and it's above the x-axis. So I'm up here above the x-axis and I hit enter, and then I go below the x-axis and I hit enter, and then I hit enter one more time. Okay, so we get x equals -2. So that's a solution. And then I'm going to do the right side. Remember, we talked about when I do the right one, I'm still doing second trace number 2, but when I go to the left side of this graph, okay, so the left side of this graph is going to be below the x-axis. So see how that's below where the left is, and it says left bound, and I hit enter. So my left bound was below, and then my right bound is going to be above, and then I hit enter again, and we get x equals 4. So that's how you find the zeros in the calculator, is you go through these steps to find those exactly. Okay. All right. So now we're going to move on and we're going to sketch. We're going to sketch these graphs. Okay. So first of all, I'm going to skip over this part of it. It's just kind of talking about what we talked about analyzing and everything. And I'm going to go straight down to this. Okay. So a multiplicity of a 0 is saying it's the number of times the 0 is repeated. So if I have an x minus 5 to the 4th power, then that means that that 0, 5, 0, is repeated 4 times, and it has a multiplicity of 4. Okay, so we're going to use this information to identify zeros and multiplicities. Okay, so what you need to know, let's just write it up here, is that if a multiplicity is an even number, then it will touch the x-axis. Okay, but if it's an odd number, then it will cross the x-axis. Okay, so it's either going to be an even number or an odd number, and it's either going to touch or cross. And that's how we can determine what the graph will kind of look like when we're sketching a graph of it. Okay, so when I do my multiplicities, I try to remember, you guys know the E.T., the alien extraterrestrial, and he goes like this and he kind of touches his 2 fingers together. You guys maybe haven't seen the movie, but it's coming out again. So E.T., he always would like touch the 2 fingers like this. So if you remember even touches like E and T, then that can help you remember when it crosses and when it touches. Okay, so for this, first of all, I'm going to put each parenthesis equal to 0, but I'm not going to include the power with it. So this is going to be x minus 4 and x minus 1. Okay, so this is going to be 4 and 1. So when I'm writing my 0 down, I'm going to say x equals 4. Another way that that could look is 4, 0. Okay? And then my other one is 1, and that would be 1, 0. So they're x-intercepts. Okay? So the multiplicity on 4, this means the power on the place where I found 4. So right here I found the 4 from this one, and that has a little power of 2. So this has a multiplicity of 2. So since the multiplicity is 2, and that's an even number, then this will touch the x-axis. Okay? All right. So then moving down here to the 1, the x equals 1 had a 3 as the power. So the multiplicity is 3. Okay, and that is an even touches, so odd crosses. Okay, so I'm just writing this out to help you. When you do it, you can just write a T or a C. You don't have to write all of this stuff. You just need to have your chart. Okay, and then the degree is if I add the multiplicities together. So 2 plus 3 is 5. So this is a 5th degree, okay? And then the 5th degree is odd. And odd is, this has a positive in front of it because it didn't have a negative. So I'm going to say positive. So I know that my end behavior is going to be down on the left and up on the right. So this is how I can sketch a graph using multiplicities. Okay. So I'm going to sketch a graph using multiplicities. So I'm going to go to 4 and 1. And at 4, I know it touches. So I'm going to put a little T right here just to remind me. And at 1, it crosses. And then I know it's going to be down on the left and up on the right. Okay, so that gives me an idea. So I don't know how far it dips or what it does, but I do know that this graph is going to start from the bottom and it's going to come up to this x-intercept and it's going to cross. It's going to go across the x-axis. For the t, it's just going to touch it. So it's going to come back down. It's going to hit the x-axis, but it's not going to go across. It's only going to touch, and then it's going to go back up. And I can connect those dots to create a sketch. Okay. Now, if I look at this in an actual calculator, I don't know exactly what these, how high up before it dips or anything like that. I just know that it is going to come back down. Since this is a sketch, it doesn't matter if it's exact. So it should just look like this. Okay. All right. So we have a couple of practice ones of these. Okay. So here's another one. So remember, each part is equal to 0. So here I get x equals 1 and x equals -2. 3 does not equal 0, so I'm going to ignore the 3. The only reason why 3 matters is because it's positive. Okay, now x equals 1 is a 0. That had a multiplicity. The little power is a 2. 2 is an even number, and so that will touch. Then I have x equals -2. Now up here, there's not a power, so it automatically is a 1. So the multiplicity is a 1. 1 is an odd number, so that will cross. Okay, my total is 3. So 2 plus 1 is 3. Okay, so this is an odd positive. The left is down and the right is up. So I can sketch this graph. At 1, it's going to touch, and at -2, it's going to cross. And I know that it's down and up. So I'm going to come up here, it's going to cross, Once it crosses, it's going to come back down and touch and then go back up. And we get our graph. So for your work, you need to show odd, positive, and the behavior, have a sketch, and then your table. Okay? All right, so we're able to do this without a calculator, and I can skip over, we're going to skip over here, and I'm going to do one more example, B, right here, and then we'll do the last part, okay? So each part, I set equal to 0. Now, I don't have to remember this is like a -1. So all that means is that this is negative. Okay, so I don't have to really worry about the x being negative. It's still 0. And then here I have x plus 5 equals 0. X minus 2 equals 0. So -5 and positive 2. Okay, so x equals 0, x equals -5, and x equals 2. So our multiplicity on the 0 is the power on the x, which is a 1. That's an odd number, so it will cross. Okay, x equals -5. That power is a 4. That's an even number, so it will touch. And then at 2, it's a 3, and that's an odd number, so it will cross. Okay, and this is going to add up to 8. So this is an 8th degree, which is even, and it's negative. So I know they're both going to go down. Okay, so to sketch this graph, I have a negative even that's going to cross at 0. It's going to touch at -5, and it's going to cross at 2. And I know it's going to be down here and down here, okay, because of my negative even. So this is going to come up and touch, and it's going to cross, okay, and I wrote 2 here instead of cross. So it's going to come up, and it's going to cross, and then come back down. So we've got our 2 legs going down, just like we figured out up here, and then we figured out where exactly the x's were, okay? All right, let's go down here where it gives us information. We're sketching a graph. So if it gives you information like this and you're sketching a graph, then all you have to do is create a table. Okay, so my 0, -3, 4, and 5. The multiplicity is 2, 3, and 1. This is touch, cross, cross. Negative leading coefficient, my total is a 6. So this is negative, even, they're both down. Touches here, crosses here, crosses here. These are both down, so it's going to go touch, cross, cross, and down. Okay. All right, let's do one more, the bottom one. Make your chart. X equals -6, multiplicity of 1. That's an odd number, so it's going to cross. X equals -2, multiplicity of 4. That's an even number, so it's going to touch. The total power is 5. So this is an odd, and it's a positive. So left and right. Cross, touch. One's down, one's up. So it's going to cross, touch, and go back. Okay. All right, and that's it. That puts it all together, all of our graphing and finding zeros and being able to sketch and all of that stuff. So if you have any questions, let me know. Thanks.